Most people go their whole lives believing the system around them is permanent. They believe the dollar will always work the same way. They believe their savings are safe if the number on their account statement looks fine. They believe the country they grew up in will always feel financially secure. But belief is not a strategy. And history has proven one thing over and over. Currencies don't die in a single dramatic moment. They weaken slowly, quietly, and then, suddenly, all at once, people wake up realizing the purchasing power they thought they had is gone. What matters in that moment isn't panic. It isn't anger. It's positioning. People over 50 understand this instinctively. You've lived through recessions, market shocks, inflation waves, political shifts, energy crises, and moments when the future felt unstable. You know that real stability doesn't come from reacting. It comes from being prepared long before everyone else feels the urgency. And right now, the quiet pressure in the financial system is building again. You can feel it even if the news pretends everything is fine. Debt levels are higher than at any point in U.S. history. The cost of everyday life stays stubbornly elevated. Savers are punished with low yields, while essentials get more expensive year after year. And after 5 decades of life, you know something simple but powerful. Your dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to. That's not politics, that's math. And when confidence in a currency begins to bend, wealth always moves. Not toward speculation, not toward new experiments, but toward the same core assets humanity has relied on for generations. Today, we're talking about 7 historically resilient assets that people turn to when stability matters more than speculation. These aren't get-rich-quick ideas. These are sleep-well-at-night positions. These are the foundations, not the fireworks. These are the kinds of assets that don't need a press release, a viral moment, or a tech trend to hold value. And if you're in the stage of life where protecting what you've spent decades building matters more than gambling to double it, then this conversation is for you. The first asset is physical gold. Not gold on a screen, not a gold ETF, not a gold position in a brokerage account. Real, tangible, allocated gold that exists outside the financial system's promises. Gold has survived empires, wars, depressions, currency resets, banking failures, revolutions, and centuries of economic reinvention. Governments have tried to replace it. Central banks have tried to control it. And yet in every era of monetary stress, gold remains the last thing standing. Not because it moves the fastest, because it breaks the least. When paper loses credibility, gold doesn't need to defend itself. It simply becomes more obvious. And right now, central banks around the world are accumulating more gold than at almost any point in modern history. Institutions that literally print money are buying something they can't print. That should tell you everything. For retirees and conservative investors, gold matters because it doesn't require timing, doesn't depend on quarterly earnings, doesn't rely on corporate leadership, and doesn't evaporate if a bank freezes withdrawals. It's quiet strength. It's insurance without an expiry date. And for Americans who want gold exposure the right way, with guidance, structure, compliance, and actual physical delivery, or IRA-approved storage, there is a reason experienced investors repeatedly turn to Augusta Precious Metals. They don't operate like a sales machine. They operate like educators. They specialize in helping retirement-age Americans own gold and silver the way it was meant to be owned, with transparency, simplicity, and protection. No hype, no mystery. Just metals handled properly, especially inside retirement accounts, where mistakes can be costly. The second asset is silver. And while gold is the anchor, silver is the bridge. It has lived a double life for centuries, both money and a utility metal. It isn't just historically valuable. It's physically essential. Silver conducts electricity better than anything else. It's in medical devices, power grids, solar panels, water purification, defense systems, and nearly every electronic infrastructure technology the modern world relies on. Unlike gold, which mostly gets stored, silver gets consumed, and what gets consumed must eventually be replaced. Yet supply growth has struggled to keep up with demand. And when you combine industrial necessity with monetary distrust, silver occupies a rare intersection. It becomes relevant in both economic expansion and economic stress. For Americans protecting generational wealth, silver plays a role gold can't fill alone: affordability, utility, and strategic leverage. And again, for those wanting to own it properly, not symbolically, firms like Augusta Precious Metals provide the kind of structure retirees need: clear pricing, IRA integration, physical ownership, and step-by-step guidance from people who treat this less like a transaction and more like a transition into financial defense. The third asset is U.S. farmland. If there is one investment that has outlasted every currency, every banking experiment, and every political cycle, it's land that produces food. You can't digitize farmland. You can't disrupt it with an app. You can't print more of it when it runs low. Its value doesn't come from agreement or confidence. It comes from necessity. In every era, people must eat, and every era requires fewer farmers and more production, meaning fertile land becomes more strategically valuable over time, not less. Farmland doesn't just hold value during uncertainty. Historically, it quietly appreciates with inflation while producing cash flow through leases or crop sales. Even in downturns, people may cancel vacations, delay purchases, stop investing, or shift lifestyles, but they don't stop consuming calories. For conservative investors seeking assets they can touch, see, understand, and hand down to future generations, farmland has always been one of the purest forms of wealth stability. The fourth asset is residential real estate, specifically modest, essential housing, not speculative luxury properties. Shelter is not discretionary. In uncertain times, demand for sensible housing doesn't disappear. It often increases. Maybe buyers hesitate, but renters fill the gap. Unlike markets driven by trends, necessity-driven housing behaves differently. It isn't designed to 5 times in 5 years. It's designed not to disappear in 5 decades. And for Americans in or near retirement, the appeal isn't fantasy growth. It's durability, rent pass-through inflation protection, and the fact that someone else pays down the asset over time. A home, a duplex, or a small residential property in the right area has historically been one of the quietest, least glamorous, and most reliable wealth preservers a family can hold. Because at the end of the day, even in chaos, people still need a place to live. The fifth asset is U.S. Treasury bonds. Yes, they are not inflation-proof. Yes, yields fluctuate. Yes, confidence in currencies waves over time. But conservative investors historically turn to treasuries not to get rich, but because, for better or worse, they represent the deepest, most liquid IOU market in the world. When uncertainty spikes, capital still moves toward what is considered the least chaotic corner of the bond universe. From a retirement perspective, treasuries play the role of stability ballast. Not excitement, not speculation, not wealth multiplication, but liquidity, structure, and known duration. In storm seasons, sometimes the objective isn't to capture lightning, it's simply to stand somewhere that doesn't collapse. The sixth asset is defensive dividend-paying utility stocks, not the glamorous stocks, not the story stocks, not the trend stocks, the boring ones, the companies that quietly deliver electricity, water, heat, gas, and essential services, regardless of optimism or fear. People don't cancel power in recessions. They don't uninstall water during uncertainty. They don't pause infrastructure because the stock market is moody. Utilities are not built for hypergrowth. They're built for continuity. And for investors over 50, continuity pays a different kind of dividend. The ability to budget, forecast, and rely on income streams when stability matters more than headline returns. The seventh asset is cash itself, strategically, selectively, and intentionally held. Not because the dollar is exciting, not because cash builds wealth long-term, but because liquidity during stress is oxygen. When turbulence hits, opportunities don't belong to the smartest. They belong to the prepared. Cash is optionality. It is maneuverability. It is the ability to stay unemotional while others become forced sellers. It is calm in numerical form. The key isn't to hold cash forever. The key is to hold cash on purpose so you never become financially cornered. Because the greatest risk in any instability is not market movement. It's losing autonomy. Now, here is the truth most people only understand too late. The worst time to think about financial defense is after you need it. The worst time to buy stability is after the crowd decides it's scarce. The worst time to move wealth into resilient assets is when everyone else is sprinting toward the same exit at the same moment. Security isn't built in the noise. It's built in the quiet, long before urgency becomes mainstream. The people who navigate uncertainty best are not the ones who predict every twist and turn. They're the ones who rooted themselves in assets that don't require perfect timing to work over decades. And if there is one area where hesitation costs people the most later, it's metals. Because metals move not when convenient, but when confidence shifts. You don't buy gold and silver because you want excitement. You buy them because you want a seatbelt installed before the turbulence, not after. And for Americans who want that seatbelt installed correctly, especially inside retirement accounts where taxes, storage, compliance, and structure actually matter, working with a trusted partner isn't optional. It's strategic. That is why Augusta Precious Metals stands out. They don't treat metals like memorabilia. They treat them like financial architecture. They specialize in helping Americans over 50 move part of their retirement into physical gold and silver the right way, without pressure, without confusion, without noise. Their entire model is built around education first, decisions second, metal third. They are not trying to shout the loudest. They're trying to guide the longest. Because the real risk right now isn't that markets fluctuate. Markets always fluctuate. The real risk is believing you have more time than you actually do to make foundational decisions. Stability is never built in hindsight. It is built in awareness. It is built in action. It is built when the decision feels early, not late. You don't move because you're scared. You move because you're responsible. You move because you're intentional. You move because you're someone who made it this far in life by seeing the world the way it is, not the way it's marketed. The goal isn't to outrun uncertainty. The goal is to be positioned so uncertainty can't outrun you. If you take nothing else from this conversation, take this. Wealth isn't what grows the fastest. Wealth is what breaks the slowest. And you are at the stage in life where breaking slow beats growing fast every single time. This isn't about fear. This is about stewardship. This is about protecting decades of discipline from a decade of distraction. This is about making sure the world adjusts to you, not the other way around. The storm doesn't need to announce itself for you to raise the sails correctly. The moment you understand the season you're in, preparation stops being optional. It becomes identity, because you're not here to gamble anymore. You're here to finish strong. And finishing strong is never noisy. It's intentional, quiet, deliberate, and built on assets that have carried families through every kind of future, before ours and long after. If this video was helpful to you, you may want to watch this video next. Here you can learn even more about retiring securely. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.